Direct from the studio where you can now see Anna Klevsova. Good morning, Anna. Come nice and close to the microphone. How are you doing?
Hi, Jim. Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today with you at Barcelona City FM.
Hey, it's very good to have you. Are you a morning person?
Well, I'm more of an afternoon person, but it's fine.
I think a lot of people in Spain are more afternoon people.
Yes, that's a Spanish culture, I guess.
Now, Anna, just tell us a little bit about, so your firm, when did you create this amazing law firm?
Our firm is 2 years old. We created it 2 years ago.
What kind of law do you specialize in?
We work mostly with international clients, English-speaking and Russian-speaking in particular.
I mean, yes, there are so many international clients in this city, I have the impression.
Yes, Barcelona is a very multicultural city.
Yeah, that's good. I can hear you nice and clearly now. Fantastic. It's a wonderful eclectic mix, isn't it? I know we've got a lot of British and Americans and Dutch here in the city, haven't we?
Yes, I think it's difficult not to find any nationality that you can imagine in Barcelona.
I think that's probably true. It's probably, from a European perspective, one of the most international cities. Now, I know that you are doing a lot of corporate law, aren't you?
Yes. What we do is that we organize our firm in different departments according to the areas. And I personally lead corporate and business and investment and immigration area. And then the other managing partner, Klev&Vera, she leads litigation and family law.
So you've got all these bases covered. You're busy people.
Yes, we also have real estate and tax people.
Right, wow. So it's quite an interesting team. And your office is somewhere in the centre of town, I guess?
Yes, we are located very close. We are very close to the Bar Association and also to the metro stop Passeig de Gràcia.
Wow, very central, in fact.
Yes.
Good location.
I think it's quite easy for international clients to find it.
Fantastic. Now, what about if I'm coming to Barcelona and I'm thinking about opening up a company, for example, what sort of things should I be thinking about?
Okay, in that case, I think it's wise, first of all, to ask a question if you need a company at all, or you may probably operate just as a sole trader or autónomo, as it's called in Spanish. And the answer would depend on your activity, what you would like to do. Just to give you an example, let's say if you are a British guy and you want to work as a photographer. And you have some clients from let's say, from UK, and then you have some new clients in Spain. In that case, probably it's not. It would be cheaper and simpler for you just to run as a sole trader. Whereas if you want to have a bigger project and if you want to limit your personal liability, then it is definitely wise for you to have a company.
Now, some people have criticised the autonomo system because, this social security payment that people have to make, whether you're really active or not, isn't that a bit of a trap?
It is. I think it is one of the major defects in the Spanish current system, and I think the government was working on it, and recently there was introduced that system of the lower quotes for the initial months. So it's right now there is a flat rate if you register as autonomo for the first time. Then you have a possibility to pay only 50 euros for the first 6 months, and then it will increase slowly until you reached the limit, the standard limit.
Oh, that sounds a bit easier to handle.
It is expensive. I
should also mention, I know we miss it, a very big good morning to our friends at Barcelona Activa who tune in to us often here, and they've got their offices just around the corner. I think they've got a system about helping startups as well.
They are doing a great job. I think that is one of the things that is helping Barcelona to become this hub of startups, because they have an excellent service and they offer advice to everyone who wants to run some entrepreneurial projects in Barcelona.
Now, you mentioned a very interesting point about if it was a British guy, but I guess things must be a little bit more complicated if someone is coming from outside the European Union and they're having to struggle with residency as well.
Certainly, that it is absolutely true. And there are different procedures for those from the European countries, and by European countries, I mean European Union and European Economic Area, which includes, for now, UK, Switzerland.
Just about, yeah.
And for all those who are outside of that area, it just becomes times more complicated.
So this is for our American friends and our Russian friends?
That would be for our American friends, Australian friends, Canadian friends, and basically from everyone who comes from the other countries.
Sure.
And in that case, it is not only they need to deal with their business setup, but they also need to go through all the red tape of their residency applications. And, well, we can talk about it later.
Sure. I mean, I imagine that process must be hugely bureaucratic from what I know about Spanish bureaucracy.
It is, yes. And the feedback we always have from our clients that it is very difficult for them to understand the Spanish bureaucracy. And it is difficult even for lawyers, and we know how it works. Mm. So, yes, I would strongly recommend anyone who wants to come not from the European Union, but the other countries, to talk to a lawyer or to immigration advisor to explore their options. As well, there are certainly many options, but it may not be so easy to deal with them on your own.
Now, for you working as a lawyer, when you meet with entrepreneurs, I mean, firstly, do you enjoy that part of the job?
Oh, I love it. Yes, I think that is one of the most exciting points of our firm, that we get to meet, first of all, so many international profile people from all over the world, from countries from everywhere, and in addition to that, help them to build their businesses, their new adventures in Spain. Well, sometimes they are new, but sometimes they come they bring their adventures from their home countries.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's very interesting, isn't it, when you evaluate why people come here. But it's funny, despite the ups and downs that we've experienced over the last few years, it seems as though Barcelona remains a magnet, doesn't it, for people to come?
It is, and I'm very pleased to observe that in spite of that recent political crisis that we've experienced in autumn, in these recent weeks, people the entrepreneurs are coming back to Barcelona as they think it is slowly getting solved.
Sure. I mean, in fact, the Financial Times did a report just about 2 or 3 days ago where they said Catalonia remains the number one leading investment location in Europe.
It is. It was quite a pleasant evaluation to receive that in spite of all those upheavals, Barcelona remains a popular destination, and it was named as a major leading city for foreign direct investments in the south of Europe.
And why do you think that is? What is it about Barcelona that helps us?
Well, there are certainly several factors that I think attract people most to Barcelona, and here, apart from the comfortable lifestyle that everybody enjoys, you can find a very positive business climate. You can find qualified human resources. You can see very, very cost-effective way to run your business here.
Sure. I mean, in fact, it was a few months ago. I had one of the founders of eDreams, which went on to become Europe's largest travel agency, and they said when they chose Barcelona, it was because the cost of setting up their back-end operation here was actually cheaper than Mumbai. Would you believe it? So.
Yeah, I think among the major European cities, Barcelona remains one of the cheapest places, because if you compare it, let's say, to London or to Paris or to some German cities or even French, it still remains quite cheap in that comparison.
The only people who would disagree with us are, of course, our Spanish friends, who always think that they feel as though when they go shopping here in Barcelona, it's more expensive than the south of Spain, for example.
Yes, and it is true, and I think it is influenced by the immigration by the international immigration. But I think everybody in Barcelona would agree that in spite of the rising prices and the cost of living for local people, what international investment bring is positive.
Absolutely. I mean, without the internationals, Barcelona might be in a bit of a sticky situation right now if we weren't here, possibly.
It's quite possible, yes.
Although, once again, some of my ardent Catalan friends might might disagree with that statement. Anyhow, if you want to, whether you agree or whether you disagree with us, you can get in touch with us here in the studio, either on the Facebook live feed or on Twitter or Instagram or WhatsApp on the 692-250-900 number. Now, stay right with us. We're going to be playing, this is The Tide by Pale Waves on Barcelona City FM. Stay right with us as we hear more from Anna Klevsova, managing partner of Klev&Vera on Barcelona City FM 107.3. And welcome back. My name's Jim Kent. Take you through until 10 o'clock this morning. Being joined in the studio by Anna Klevsova, managing partner of Klev&Vera. I'm guessing your partner, as you mentioned, her surname is Vera, which is where you got the name of the firm from.
Yes. We had two managing partners, myself, Anna Klevsova, and Helen Pino Vera.
Okay, very good. And you get along pretty well?
Yes, certainly.
That's a good thing.
Else we wouldn't be working together.
No, I'm absolutely sure. Now, can we just talk about residency a little bit more, about possibly about in your experience of working with people who are looking for residency? What's your advice, perhaps, before they even come to Spain, about how can they get their affairs in order to help the process, for example?
What we do is that we always advise the people to start the process before they leave the home country, because there are some documents that they can get, and they can get it can save them much trouble and much money if they do it themselves before leaving the country. And here it is very important to differentiate between what we talked about earlier, between those who come from European countries, let's say from the European Union, the European Economic Area, and those who comes from the rest of the world, because the procedures are totally different. And
So what kind of documents? Let's say I'm coming from the United States. What kind of things should I get?
That is precisely what I mentioned earlier, that it would depend on what type of procedure you would apply for. Because,
so depending what kind of residency I want.
Exactly. Depending on what kind of residency, you would need one set of documents or the others. But something that usually gives you more, which usually takes more time and causes more trouble, is the police clearance. And that needs to be provided, not for all the procedures, but for most of them. And you need to obtain it personally or through a power of attorney in your country of origin.
So this is like making a statement that I'm not a bad guy, that I'm not a criminal.
That you don't have criminal records, exactly.
Right.
And then let's say if you are coming from the US, the rules can be different depending on which state you are living in. And to apply for that document, you need to follow the local rules, which can be you need to go to the State Department of Justice or to the FBI or to the local police even. And then all those documents, they will need to be apostilled in your country of origin. And in that case, many countries who ratified the Hague Convention, they can use this apostille system. But if your home country didn't ratify that convention, then you will need to go through the consular legalization, which is a huge headache, as it takes quite long.
Sure, gosh, it sounds like a real nightmare already. And do you need that? Do you need that police record clearance? Even if you, I know people have talked to me a lot about the golden visa. Do you still need a police clearance for that?
Yes.
Right, gosh. So even if you're investing big money into Spain, you've still got to prove that you're a good guy. Yes.
That is the rule established for Spain, and generally they follow the European procedures. So it is something that you will need to provide.
Because I'm under the impression that Spain remains quite a popular destination for people to try and get residency. I have the impression it's slightly easier here than other EU countries.
Well, I wouldn't say that it is easier, because I think immigration procedures are complicated everywhere. But what makes it perhaps frustrating in Spain is the slow pace of all the processes. And here again, the big difference, what makes the difference is whether you are from the European countries or from outside. And if you are coming from another European country, then it is just a formality that you need to do. You need to declare your residency, and you do it based on your right to exercise the free movement of persons within the European Union. And even though that it is a formality, it still can become a nightmare if you don't know how it works, if you don't know which office to go or which documents to bring, and especially if you don't speak Spanish.
Sure. No, yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I know quite a lot of international people, they just try and keep their head down below the Spanish radar and hope that they, kind of just remain slightly hidden.
There are many European citizens that they don't register. It's not that nothing is going to happen to them, and the Spanish police don't go to search for those who didn't register. But it wouldn't be correct. And the European regulations, they require you to register if you spend more than 3 months in another European country.
More than 3 months?
More than 3 months in a row, yes.
Okay, that's not very much. So a big reminder to everyone who's been here for like 10 years and never got around to registering, you are a little bit late. Okay, so that's on the residency side. And in your experience, have you got any examples of people that you've worked with like that? I mean, have you done much residency immigration work in the last year, for example?
Yes, we deal with such applications all the time. It's one of our popular services, and we receive inquiries all the time about that.
And is the United States the most popular country from which you get applications?
We have quite a few applications from the US, from Canada, from Australia, but also from the countries, let's say, like from the Middle Eastern countries and Russia and Central Asia and that region.
Because Russia is an interesting example because historically Cyprus was very popular, wasn't it, for Russians to come and, move into the EU. But I think it's slightly less. I think Spain might be now the number one, I believe.
Well, I unfortunately, I don't have the current statistics, but it would be very interesting to know which one is the most popular country now for Russians. What I can see is that the Russian community in Barcelona, in particular, is becoming more and more, is growing more and more. But in the south of Spain, in the coast of Alicante and Malaga, there is also quite a big population, and then also in the north of Catalonia, in Salou and somewhere around.
And what do you put this down to, like the booming middle class in Russia? So the wealth has been accumulated, and therefore they feel like better weather.
Certainly, and many families, what they have here in Spain is they have their residence, their second residence, and they just come here for holidays anytime they want. It slowed down in the recent years due to the financial crisis in Russia, but still we receive quite a few inquiries, including golden visa application and business setup.
Right. Now, let's just talk about Spain in terms of the business environment. I mean, as you mentioned earlier on, over the past, since September, since the whole independence issue really kind of took off in a very fierce way, have you feel as though the appetite for investors is now returning to the pre-crisis level?
Yes, what we could notice that due to the events of October and last autumn, there was a significant slowdown in the investment, and which was it was confirmed by several studies. But now what we could observe is that there are some steps taken that to solve that crisis, and that is slowly giving back the confidence to the investors. So. If, let's say, in autumn, we had some projects that they went into standby, what we can see now is that many of them are getting back. Good.
Well, that's got to be good news for all of us, hasn't it, really?
Yes, certainly. For not only for Barcelona, but for the whole Spain.
For the whole of Spain, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Now, actually, I've already had a question in about real estate, and the question is, are you more involved with commercial real estate or with private properties?
Both of them.
Oh, really?
Yes, we have experts in real estate, and we provide services for both. For like if you want to buy your own home, like your private residence, but also if you want to invest, let's say, into a hotel or a commercial property, or to buy an office, things like that.
Okay, and is there still appetite? Are you seeing people really wanting to buy properties again?
Yes, certainly, and that is something that doesn't make the local population very happy, because the international demands are caused that the prices for the real estate, especially in the city center of Barcelona, increased a lot. which made it difficult for the local families to buy their own residences. Yeah. But in comparison with other European countries, it still remains cheap. Yeah. And that is the contradiction that the Spanish people have to deal with.
Because what we've ended up with is that salary inflation has not really kept up with the increase in price of the property, has it? So there's still quite a lot of people on low salaries, yes, and suddenly rent feels very expensive.
Exactly. That is also a very important question that you raised, that the rent, especially in the central areas of Barcelona, increased a lot in the recent year.
Although what I find interesting about that debate is that when I see criticism of rent levels on Facebook, for example, people blame the international community when in fact it's Catalan landlords. They're the ones who increase the prices. So don't blame us, blame them.
Yes.
Absolutely. Hey, Anna, in fact, stay right there. We're going to go to our commercial break right now. We're coming straight back to Anna Klevsova, managing partner of Klev&Vera. You're listening to Barcelona City FM 107.3. It's just turned 9:30 here in Barcelona, and that's right, Tory Sparks will be performing on the 17th of February, which is this weekend, I guess, isn't it, on Saturday? And that's downstairs in the basement bar of the very luxurious El Palace Hotel, which is very nice. If you've not been there, it's actually, it used to be called the Ritz a couple of years ago, and it's considered one of the 3 serious 5-star hotels in the city. And I know I'm going to be there myself. And good morning also to Xavi Figueres, who is also going to be there, who is the owner of Garage 442. Looking forward to seeing you there. Now, Anna, I've got a couple of questions for you. Firstly, let's just talk about company setup. If I want to create a company here, what do I need to do?
Okay. First of all, if you live outside of Spain and want to set up your Spanish company, the first thing that you need to get is your NIE number. That is a registration number, like a foreigner's identification number, that it will be the same for all your life in Spain. And then once you have that, the next steps are the same whether you live in Spain or outside of Spain. And what you would need to start with is to choose your company name and to register it. It is done in the central company's house, which is located in Madrid. But all that can be done online, and it is a rather fast procedure. Then you'll need to open the company bank account and to deposit your company capital. The minimum amount is 3,000, but you can choose the one you want, and you need to deposit it in the bank account before you go to further steps. I forgot to mention that this NIE number needs to be obtained for all the shareholders and directors of the company. So if you are several people in the company, each of you will have to get that number.
And as we sort of talked a little bit before, getting a NIE nowadays is not so easy, is it?
Well, no. It is something that it is really just an administrative formality that is needed to formalize this investment. But unfortunately, it became a big problem in the recent months. And it was due especially to the lack of appointments that let's say, again, as we talked, there are different procedures for the European residents and for the outside of for the residents outside of countries. And in Barcelona, there are 2 different offices that deal with that. And if you are from the European country, you would need to go, just to give an example, in Barcelona, you would need to go to the office, which is located in Rambla Guipúzcoa. And to go there, you will need to get an appointment. But to get an appointment, it may take you a few weeks, if not months, that we've seen such cases. In
a few months to get an appointment for a NIE? How is this country even surviving? Come on, that should be an easy process, shouldn't it?
It is, yes, and it is one of the things that the administration is working on improving. And in that was a big of a problem. And many Spanish institutions were working on it. There was a complaint from the Spanish ombudsman, from different bar association, from the lawyers who works with that, myself included. And I think that after all those complaints, what we could see in the recent weeks, that there were some improvements already.
Oh, well, that's good news.
And usually now you can take it much faster than before.
Okay. Actually, I've just got to say a very big good morning to Lynn McIntyre, who says, "Hey, that's my lawyer." Thank you, Lynn. Very good to hear from you.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. Nice to hear from you.
Okay, so so that's the NIA process, and then you mentioned about registering the company name, and then the startup capital, which is €3,000, isn't it, for an SL?
Yes, that is a minimum required amount, and then after that, you would need to pass through the tax office to register all the shareholders and directors in the tax authorities. And if you are opening a branch of your foreign company, you will also need to register your foreign company in the tax authorities. And then you will get your tax ID for your foreign company in Spain. And basically everything is ready to prepare the bylaws, that is to choose who is going to be the company director, the shareholder, and what you are going to do. You need to choose the right code for that. And you can go to a notary to sign the deed. And then after that, just a few more steps remain. That once the deed is registered in the notary, it has to go to the company's house in the local area where you are creating the company. And that is a step that also causes difficulties for foreigners to understand, as it takes about 2 weeks to register it. Whereas, let's say if you are coming from UK, the company's house in UK that is something very simple that can be done online, and it is done very fast. So that is another thing that the Spanish government could improve, I think.
Right. Gosh. Well, it seems like there's quite a lot of work for the Spanish government to do.
They are doing slowly their work, but of course there are always something that they can improve.
And interesting, so you mentioned in comparison to other countries, where more countries are moving to sort of an e-filing, aren't they? They're sort of enabling, they're reducing the share capital, and and more people can do more stuff online, which is possibly what Spain needs to do too, isn't it?
Yes, in general, I think Spain is doing quite well with their e-government, their digital government system. And one of the things that I would like to mention is the digital signatures that are working quite well. That is something that you can get. You need to go to the Fábrica Nacional de Moneda y Timbre. That's like that's an institution that grants you this digital certificate, one of the most popular ones. And then it works particularly well with the tax office, with the social security, and with some local authorities. And it is working quite well, the system, but there are still many procedures that I think can be simplified and can make the life of international investors much easier when they come to Spain.
Now, in terms of getting the support of other professionals along the way, I guess in many people's minds, they feel they need a lawyer at the start of the process. And then I guess they've got to do a lot of accounting work following this. Is that something you help them with, or do you have a gestor that you work with?
Yes, we work. We have the accounting department, and we have English-speaking tax advisors that can help. And I think as a general advice, I would recommend everyone who wants to set up a business in Spain to have a good accountant, as the formalities for the bookkeeping and for preparing the tax return in Spain can become quite complicated for those who is not familiar with the system. And it is better to prevent any inconveniences in the future, I think.
Sure, everybody needs an accountant. I guess this also means, doesn't it, when you're thinking of your business idea and you're considering creating a business company, you've got to be able to create a certain amount of revenue to pay the costs of your structure. Otherwise, it's not worth doing. So it's got to be of a certain size. Otherwise, you might just stay as an autonomo, as you mentioned before.
Yes, in that case, you would need to evaluate, if you want to start your business in Spain, you would need to evaluate what would be your expected revenue. And if we are talking about a small amount or relatively small amount, that perhaps the costs of setting up the company and then running all those administrative formalities to maintain it, perhaps it doesn't make you, it is not necessary for you to have it. Whereas, the cost of becoming autonomous in Spain in comparison with the company, of course, it is very low. And it may be reasonable in that case to just work as a sole trader, as autonomo.
Right. Okay. Very, very interesting. And I guess there's also a certain kind of person who perhaps is already an autonomo and their business is growing. And maybe it's time for them to limit their liability, and therefore an SL would be the option, I guess. Certainly.
Yes. As I mentioned before, it is one of the major issues that you would need to think of, that if you are thinking about a bigger investment, if you want to hire people, if you want to make a larger investment, it is better. And if you want to, of course, to limit your liability to the company capital, then the limited liability company may be a good way for you.
Sure. Really interesting. Now, we should just probably ask you, for people that want personal advice on this kind of subject, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Of course, we will be very pleased to receive inquiries and help whoever needs it. And you can see our information on our website. That's www.Klev&Vera.com. Or just send us an email at info@Klevera.com, and we will be very happy to answer, request a call back, and we will contact you.
Fantastic. And we will be writing those contact details on the Barcelona City FM website and Facebook page straight after this show as well. I've got a final question for you, Anna, this morning, and then you can relax and have a coffee. I've got a question about the future. What are your hopes as a firm for the future? And perhaps even, what are your hopes for Catalonia?
I think certainly our hopes are positive, both for our firm and for Catalonia. There was a bit of concern in the last months for everyone who lives here. But we can see that the situation is improving, and we can certainly think of only the best for the future for both us and Catalonia and for Spain. And I think and I believe that Barcelona will always remain a very attractive city to live in.
Wow, fantastic. Well, I'm sure, I share your optimism, certainly for Barcelona and the region. And we do wish you all the best for your firm as well. Hope you have a really fantastic 2018.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Barcelona City FM.
It's a pleasure. Anna, it's been great having you on air this morning, and do keep in touch, and we absolutely look forward to you being on air again. Who knows? So once again, don't worry if you've not been able to give us any questions up to this point. You can do it, of course, after the show as well, and we will connect you with Anna directly. This is Jim Kent. I'm taking you through till 10 o'clock this morning. Stay right with us. This is the Ex-Ambassadors on Barcelona City FM 107.3.